Welcome to my cluttered garage. I'm really glad you're here. A place where we can laugh and talk and days are filled with cheer. The clouds and sun may come and go, but one thing's always clear. Welcome back, my friend. You know I'm really glad you're here. Yeah.
Hey, welcome back, my friends, and welcome to live stream number 128. It's August 7th, 2023, and indeed, I am really glad you're here. Tonight is a special night. I'm hoping that everything goes well because we are under a tornado watch until 11 p.m. I left the blinds up just so we could see what's going on there, and just a moment ago, it looked like we were in a car wash, so we'll see what's happening there. But anyway, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. You know, if you're a regular here, you know that we meet every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time until 8 p.m. We'll have you out of here. And want to remind you, though, if you are new to the live stream, if you're watching for the first time, please say hi in the live chat. This is an interactive live stream. So say hi in the live chat. Let us know that it's your first time here. Let us know how you found the channel. Was it YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok? How'd you get here tonight? At any rate, you're here and I'm here, and we're going to have a good time. So, well, about tonight's show, we're getting ready to bring our guest on for tonight. Very excited to bring Rob Wolfe from American Pickers, and he's backstage right now. Going to bring him out here in just a second. So that is exciting. And I'm looking at the live chat comments. I see several other folks are also under this tornado watch on the East Coast. So, all right. Well, wish us luck for sure. All right. So here we are. And just want to say that I'm happy that Rob's here, and we want to bring him on now as a special guest. So please join me in welcoming our special guest for tonight, Rob Wolfe from American Pickers. Hello, Rob.
How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Great. I guess you're not under any tornado watch.
No, we were yesterday. That was another thing. So it's are you guys down in Southern Illinois?
Southern New Jersey.
Southern New Jersey. Okay. Well, they said all that stuff went through Southern Illinois. Now it's on the East Coast.
It's working its way over, right? Working its way out. So,
yeah. So hopefully everybody stays safe out there.
Hope so. Hey, so let me first thank you for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy person, and this means a lot that you would spend some time with us tonight. I really do appreciate that.
I appreciate you guys having me out, and we've got a busy year ahead of us. Been on the road a lot filming, and we just finished doing the Iowa Gas Show, which was last weekend. There was people from all over the country for that. It's been a busy year so far.
And we're in a new season of the show. And I think new episode tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, a new episode starts at 8 Central. I think I'm on with Jersey John, and I can't remember where my brother is. I get so scrambled on where we're at and what's going on all the time.
Yeah.
Yanked every direction.
So that's on the History Channel, and you got local South Jersey guy with Jersey John there. That's exciting too. So
he's been a good character since we added him in.
That's great. Well, I want to talk about a few things tonight. And first of all, there are comments in the live chat. So if you can see that, Rob, if you see any particular comments that you want to answer, we can pull it up on the screen and respond to that. So we'll keep an eye on the live chat comments. I do want to remind folks that if you have a question tonight, that if you type your question with the word question at the beginning, it helps us see it a little bit better. So that's kind of the format that we use here. Write the word question followed by your question. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on that and see if we can go through some comments maybe a little bit later on too. But so tell me about my first question is about picking in general. How did you get into it? How did it start for you?
I think that's like the number one question we get asked all the time.
Sure.
As a kid, I think every person that grew up as a kid, we had the ability. We didn't have cell phones back then, so you had to entertain yourself. Entertain yourself meant for my brother, we lived our life on a creek and Mississippi River. We kind of thought we were Huck Finn every once in a while, and would do that. And we ended up, kind of going into junkyards and being intrigued with what was in the trunk of a car or what was inside the glove box, or, so many different things. But early on, my mom couldn't afford to buy us bicycles, so we would pick these out of the trash, and my brother would, mechanically fix them up. And they would usually be too big for us to ride. We'd have to jump off of a fence to get on the bike, to push it down, to get it going down the road. And as long as we were going downhill, we were okay. So that's, I think back in the days, the kids grow up nowadays, they're constantly on their cell phones. I grew up in the woods behind my house. We didn't have the cell phone. So, my kids, I have 5 kids, so I kind of gave them the same thing I had. Woods behind the house, freedom to do what they wanted, go build a fort, go get into a little mischief, those kind of things.
I had a similar experience in childhood. I grew up, played at my neighbor's farm, which was right behind us, and we had a bike club. We would do the same thing. We would get old bikes, fix them up. We would, have a fort in the hay loft, and all those great things. Just like you're saying, going through the woods. There was a big automotive yard in the woods. It was privately owned.
Yeah.
And the guy had like all kinds of old cars. I think he just collected them and put them back there. And if he didn't already clean them up, I'd love to have you come, but somebody bought the property and cleaned it all up. But we would sneak back there as kids. And of course, the rumor was if he caught you back there, he'd shoot you. So we had to sneak back there and see what some of the cars were. And, but I don't even know what they were at this point, but it was always fascinating, like you're saying, to kind of rummage through and see what you could find. It's very, very interesting. So,
I think when I was probably 10 or 12 years old, I can remember the cars that were stacked up: 57 Chevys, Mustangs, Rivieras, Cadillacs. I remember, and the big thing for me back then was, I need that emblem off that car.
Oh yeah,
the emblem off the car. And the junkyard that we ran around in was the Getch junkyard, which old man Getch, he's since passed on, but I always remember the dog that was in that junkyard. We'd climb over the fence, we'd get on top of the pile. This dog was like Cujo, man. And my brother and I would jump from pile to pile to pile going to these cars. And I remember my brother saying to me one time, "Don't fall off that car because Cujo's going to eat you, and I can't save you, and I don't want to go home and tell Mom that you fell off and the dog ate you."
Yeah.
So fun stuff.
It was a great experience. Now I don't know who I'm going to insult here, but who's older, you or Mike?
I'm younger.
You're the younger brother. Okay.
Yeah, there's no insult there. I hear that all the time. I don't know if I'm more wise because I have 5 kids and he has 1. He always gives me. He's like, "I don't know how you get through this." I'm like, you know what? Having 5 kids was simple. That's the simple part of life.
Yeah. Good deal. So, and now speaking of cars, you're kind of the car guy, though. That's really seems like where your passion is.
Yeah, cars or anything that's got a motor on it. It doesn't even have to be. If it's got a motor on it, it intrigues me. I want to know how it works, what it was used for. The car things. I remember having a '74 Chrysler Newport. That was my first car as a kid. I'm 16 years old. It was the biggest boat with a 440 in it. I could barely afford to put $2 worth of gas in it. I worked at the A&W root beer as a sweep up in the wash tubs and stuff, and it just kind of the passion grew from there. I got into sports cars. I keep telling my wife, because I've owned a lot. I probably owned 300 or 400 cars in my life, and I'm 57 right now. So I told her the other day, she's like, "When are you going to stop buying cars?" And I was like, my goal is to drive every car that was in existence. That's a lot of cars.
You'll never run out. That's for sure.
Yeah, I just have to drive them. I don't have to, I don't have to own it. I just want to drive it.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Little check mark. So there's a question here from our friend Chris over at the Watershed Overlook. Yeah. Basically, speaking of things with engines. So Harley or Indian? Are you more into like really the historic bikes like the Indians, or?
I'm more into, when it comes to bicycles, I'm more into the pre-war stuff. anything that was pre-war back in the day. The early days, they made airflow bicycles, something like an aerocycle, a motorbike, a dual tank. I've got an Indian bicycle. I've got a Harley bicycle. Those were really the earliest forms of transportation in America. Was besides a wagon, you went to a bicycle, and then they put an engine on it and made it go faster. So I've got motorcycles, but really my passion is four wheels. I mean, I love the bicycles, I love the motorcycles, but I love stuff that's got four wheels on it.
So is it anything with four wheels, or let's build this scenario. You walk up to a barn and they open the doors of the barn. What's inside? Like, what do you want to see? Like, what's your dream vehicle to find when you pull those doors open?
Well, I think a dream would be finding a 32, 33, or 34 three-window coupe.
Okay.
That's like the unicorn. For me, though, lately it's been I've been into anything. I grew up watching American Graffiti, the movie, and it just hit, what was it, 50 years old, the new thing that they just had out. Well, I grew up, my kid loves that movie. I've probably watched that movie 2,000 times. And I've now got a 58 Bel Air. I think about that. I had chances to buy the T-Birds that were on there. Kind of going into that 50s scene. I was into the 30s for a long time. Now I'm going into the 50s. I've got a few 60s cars.
Well, you're growing up, Rob.
That's what they say. But I don't know. I want to go faster. It seems like as I grow older, I want to go faster. The 30 cars, they go fast, but they don't go fast enough for me. Then I got into the 50s. The V8s, the overhead valve, the tri setups, different car, different transmissions, everything. Now I'm getting into the 60s. I'm even looking at stuff that's in the 70s and 80s now.
Because you're in the muscle car era now.
Yeah. A lot of people are staying away from the 80s. I think the 80s stuff is getting hot, and it's been hot for a while.
Yeah. So. Yeah, the 80s, it wasn't a great time for Detroit in the 80s with the quality and all, but still, it's an era. It existed. It's a time we lived through, and it was a.
We can answer this question right here, Jolene. What's the coolest and most rare item in my collection or Mike's collection? My collection would have to be advertising signs, because I collect a lot of advertising. I got a lot of neon signs. I actually at one time owned the only Pontiac sign. It was the biggest Pontiac sign in the world at the time. It was Beam Pontiac. It was built down in Nashville. The sign itself was porcelain. It had Indian head on top of it. On the top, it had the Indian head. Then it said Beeman on it. Then it said Pontiac. The sign was 24 feet on the top of the roof and 38 feet long.
Wow.
So for me, that's the big thing. For my brother, it would have to be anything that's motorcycle related. He's got stuff all the way back to 1903. When you talk about 1903, that's the most primitive stuff. It's early bicycle looking motorcycles with gas tanks on them. With
just motorized bicycles. That's right.
They're just incredible. They're absolutely incredible. And if he could find something like that, he is the happiest guy in the world. Anything pre-1915 for him.
Now, you mentioned signs. I was going to say, I noticed on your Instagram account, and I want to encourage people to follow you on Instagram. A lot of sign content on there.
We do a lot of stuff with advertising. I started doing advertising probably 30 years ago, and I've gotten into a lot of the restoration on it. I look at this stuff that we do as sometimes it's not about just people always look at the money side of some things. I look at the saving of it, meaning I want my kids, grandkids to be able to see this stuff. And there's not that many people out there that would say, I want to save this stuff. That's what I do. When people walk in my shop, they look up at the ceiling. They're like, oh my gosh, this is a museum. To me, it's not a museum. It's just something that tells a story. Every sign in America told a story about a time in America, whether it been a wooden sign, a light bulb sign, a neon sign, a porcelain sign. They all told a story about what was going on in America at the time.
That's so true. And real quick, back to cars. You said you don't have to own every car, but you want to drive every car. Is there a particular car? This is a question from our friend Ross. Any particular car that you let go that you you kind of wish you still had?
I had a 63 Corvette that was original owner, well, I could say it was original paint, but I was the one that found it, and I resurrected it. It had the most whacked out paint job that you've ever seen in your life on a Corvette, but the guy bought it brand new. Everybody in town told me about it, and I thought it was a unicorn. I ended up finding it in a barn and brought it back to life, and that was probably 7 years ago, and a guy walked in my shop and had to have it worse than I did. And I regret that day. And I've asked him to sell it back. And he says he'll sell it back to me, but I just don't, it's not happened. So
yeah.
One of the things I have in my shop, most people look at me and they're like, 50s, 60s hot rods. Right now, my biggest thing, I've been going to Hershey for a little over 20 years. And Hershey, Pennsylvania is the biggest car swap meet in the world, hands down. You want to learn about cars, you want to learn about things, go to Hershey, because those are the guys that have been doing it since the 50s and 60s. They'll sit down and tell you every story you want to hear and tell you what you're looking at from brass era all the way into the muscle car era. But ever since I started going there, I set up in the brass era field, and brass era to me is like pre-teens up into the 20s. Basically, that's a brass era car.
I see. Yeah.
They always intrigued me because when you look at those forms of transportation, they had wooden wheels on them. They were chain drive, most of them. They were 2-cylinder. Some were single cylinder. And I just bought my first one, a 1913 International High Wheel.
Wow.
It looks like a truck, but most people don't understand it. They look at it and they're just like, why would you buy that? And to me, I opened my door of my shop and that's sitting right there. I got the biggest smile on my face because it took me 20 years to get that.
You can't put a price on a good smile. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I have, and in fact, I just moved it today. I have a wooden wheel. I assume it's from like a Model A or Model T. Has no tire on it, no rubber, but it's got a steel rim. It's got the wooden spokes, and they have been moved from my grandparents' barn to our garage. I just moved it to my barn today, and my family moved to this area in 1923. And
wow.
I like to believe that wheel may have been on the vehicle that brought them from northern New Jersey to southern New Jersey, which was a tremendous trip to make in 1923.
Yeah.
So I have this wheel. I have a couple of them, and I like to believe that was their vehicle that brought them here. So
that's what I mean. It tells a story. Anything. It doesn't matter if it's a Model T, Model A. I hear stories from older people all the time about, hey, I got married in that car.
Right.
And they will never let it go. And that's special to me. I love listening to those stories. I don't know. It's that's the thing that I love doing the show, is listening to the stories about the things that we find.
Right. That's so true. Speaking of stories, let me ask you something here. Now, of course, you have a shop where items are for sale. You don't just collect just because you like to collect things. You also sell things as well.
Yeah, I do. I have a shop that's located in Davenport. It's an old body shop that when I was 10 years old, I used to ride my BMX bike all over town. Well, this was probably 8 miles from my house. My mom she never knew where we were because we didn't have cell phones then. So I would ride over to the Schwinn dealer and I'd look at the red line in the front window, and then I'd ride downtown Davenport and I would go to this body shop, and it was Carl Cleveland's son at the time. It was built in 1932, and I would go up to the front windows, and the guy had 17 people in there working, from straightening frames to doing different engine work to doing all kinds of things in there. And it just intrigued me. It always stuck with me. Well, Carl Cleveland's son, they were in business. I come to find out their family story. They were in business since 1901 in Davenport, Iowa.
Wow.
They started fixing carriages here, and then went into Model Ts. They fixed bicycles, then went to Model As. Then in 1932, they built this shop, and that was their shop. So when you talk about the legacy of one family, 1901, I bought the shop in, it's 2023 now, would have been 2020. That's how long they were in business.
Wow.
So I feel like a preservationist when I open that door to people and let them in there to tell that story again, because there's not too many families that can say, hey, my family went through every piece of transportation history that there actually was.
They sure did. That's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So pretty unique.
I'm always intrigued by knowing what's valuable. And of course, I know the value to you is not just monetary. It's the story. It's the history of the product itself. But I have kind of a funny story here that in 1976, now I was 8 years old in 1976, my grandmother handed me these 7-Up bottles, bicentennial. They have the Liberty Bell on them, and she handed me these bottles, little 8-year-old Eddie, and she's like, Eddie, take these bottles and go put them in the crawl space because they're going to be worth something someday. So I have these 3 7-Up bottles from 1976. We're 47 years later or so.
Yeah.
I look it up; they're not worth anything.
Right.
So I mean, so many things that I've had in my life that I'm like, this is really old. This is cool. I look it up. How do you know if something has value? I never, and of course, this has value because I know the story of my grandmother handing it to me and telling me to do that. But monetary value, how do you know? How do you not mess up and waste your time, waste your money?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I could always tell people is, I get that question of asked me, how do you know so much about things? I have made so many mistakes over my life. It's not even funny when it comes to buying things, but I bought, because we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers back then. I bought off my feeling of what I thought that was worth, of the value of it.
Right.
Back then, I'd say 75% of the time I was right, 25% of the time I was wrong, and I lost money. I tell people this, that's the price of paying an education. I could have paid for probably 3 Harvard educations over my lifetime. So nowadays, things, when you talk about the picking world as in general, the picking world has changed. I mean, it has so evolved. I mean, in the late 80s and early 90s, that's when the antique shops went to the wayside. They were closing up. They were gone. The mom and pop outfits were. I used to pick those shops and take stuff to other dealers and sell it to them. That's how well we were connected back then.
Right.
Nowadays, you've got these new shops that are opened up. They have a presence on Etsy. They're on eBay. They're basically on Facebook Marketplace, and they have a storefront. So they're having actually 4 or 5 storefronts to be able to move things. And when you're moving things like that, that means there's stuff that the values are found on the internet. So there's a million places you can find values of things. And people always ask me about auction numbers, prices of things that sell at auctions. You can't buy stuff off auction numbers. That's, nothing. I buy very few things at auctions. But when I do, I know what I'm buying and I know the value of it when I'm there. So it's a fine line that you run on those things. Nowadays, everybody has the ability to look something up. The biggest problem you have, I think, in the industry that we have, that we're in now, is you have Meekum, you got Barrett Jackson, you got Morphe's, you got Jordan Richmond on the East Coast or East Coast. All these auction houses are posting numbers of the things that they're selling. Those aren't realistic numbers. I mean, if you look at what happened during COVID, numbers on everything went through the roof. It changed the whole world as we know it in the last 3 years. I mean, you've seen the car market.
Yeah.
Everybody was freaking out. They were pulling their money out of the markets. They were like, I better buy something and put it in a tangible asset that will grow in value versus trying to put it into the market more. They were buying these cars, and you're starting to see some of those cars trickle back into the market now. Same thing on the signs. The advertising world, as we know it, has exploded. It's just a sign sold for $1.5 million this year, the most ever in history.
Wow.
So there's so many avenues that you can find values of things all the time.
And value is subjective. I mean, when you say what's something worth, well, it's worth as much as someone's willing to pay for it, right? Yeah. And you don't always know your audience. I mean, you kind of do, but there's always going to be maybe that person that'll pay $1.5 million for a sign. And
the person on that sign, I heard it was an art dealer that bought it. It wasn't a person that was actually collecting advertising items. It was an art dealer that thought, wow, this is a good investment.
So they want to resell it then even.
Yeah, eventually down the road they might. But, it's That's a fine line. I mean, we'll see what the market does in the next 3 more years. I always tell people that are actually professional pickers, or they do what we do for a living, they're antique dealers. I say that antiques is the most volatile market you'll ever get into in your life. It's worse than the stock market, because if you don't pay attention to markets, and the markets go up and down every month in the antique field, in my opinion, if you're not paying attention to those, then you could shoot yourself in the foot real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tough too, because it's also, I assume, based on generations. You and I are from the same generation.
Yeah.
We have fond memories of certain things. The next generation may not care at all about those things. So it's not always necessarily, I guess, a good investment, because you don't know if of course, other shows like Antiques Roadshow, you see that where they show the price, what it sold, what it was valued 10 years ago. And then today I love it when they give the update and it say that it's higher or lower, but you don't know. Like you're saying, it's very volatile. There's no guarantees with that.
Market, and you just pay attention to it. My grandfather always used to say, I remember him always telling me this: if you're going to buy something, buy it because you like it, because you don't know how long you're going to own it. So, and that's kind of the whole philosophy. I still, to this day, I still take that philosophy. I don't use a phone to look things up. I go off my gut. If I know what it is and I'm looking at it, and I bought 100 of them, and the market was down 20 years ago, and now it's starting to climb, I might start buying that stuff. I can tell you right now, one of the hottest markets that are coming about is late 70s and early 80s stuff. I've never dealt in that stuff, but I see that market exploding in the next 10 years. So, yeah. I mean, look at Barbie. Look at the hype on Barbie. She was right. $50 in a movie.
Right.
Nobody thought that would happen. So if you looked at what the market was 6 months ago on anything that had the name Barbie on it, it was down. Now look at what's going on. 3 times the money it was bringing 6 months ago.
Right.
Yeah. So pay attention to the markets. Pay attention to what's going on.
And again, this is your business. Somebody like myself might think, oh, I'll buy this and see if I can make a couple bucks on it. It's hit or miss, but you're in the business, so you have to, I guess, level things out. You're not gonna make a profit on everything.
My grandpa
lose some, right?
My grandpa used to say, if you're not losing a profit on at least 3 to 5 items a month, then you're not buying enough. So he always played percentages. Most guys do the percentage thing, which is kind of, I think I play the percentage. I mean, if you walked in my shop, my wife tells me I've never sold a thing. If you look at it, it's 15,000 square foot, but everything's still plastered to the ceilings. And I take something down, but something else goes back up.
Right.
So,
now, was your grandfather in the business?
He was good. He was a junker in Chicago. Yeah.
In Chicago
area. And my dad was a steel setter in Chicago. Grew up in Joliet. My brother and I, we hung around the orphanage there in Joliet, which is now gone.
Do you or Mike have anything that was your grandfather's that he had?
No.
Picked? No, not from that time, huh?
No, we barely. I remember growing up living with my grandparents on the farm, and we lived a pretty, I thought, great life back then. But I look back on it now. My mom gave us everything we had. We lived in a 1-room garage basically with my grandparents, and that was it. And honestly, I wouldn't have given it up for anything. Some of the best picks that I've ever been on in my life are ones that are 2-bedroom homes that the guy or the wife will tell you, hey, I raised 7 kids in this house. And you're looking at them going, wow. And you talk to the daughter and you go, yeah, if you didn't get up in the morning, you didn't get your shower. If you didn't get to dinner, you didn't have dinner. Those days. That's kind of a lost thing in America right now. So that's I kind of think we live in a little bit more of a throwaway society.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. I mean, that we've seen that evolve. There used to be appliance repair people. There was a local Electrolux repair guy who lived nearby, and all my life driving by, you'd see the Electrolux sign out there. And in later years, he had the Electrolux sign, and then below it said, "Yes, I'm still in business." Because it went away. We we don't repair anything anymore. You know, we
think
throw it
it's-
away, and it's not built to be repaired anymore.
No, nowhere near.
So
Jolene, is it Jolene?
Jalen, I think Jalen Outdoors about the best states.
Oh God, you have to really look at. I always tell everybody the East Coast. I mean, that's where America started. There's so much stuff in the buildings and garages out there. It could be anywhere on the East Coast, but you know, my brother always says Pennsylvania, because we had the industrial age there, and there was so much money flowing into Pennsylvania at the time. There's a lot of stuff that was stashed away. And I mean, honestly, I think Pennsylvania is probably one of the best states, but I like going up and down like New Jersey, getting into Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, all those states up in there, because things that were put away in barns I mean, that's kind of how I got that 1913 International. It came from a 6th generation family that was in Maine. Otherwise it would have never been singing.
Right.
So the stuff's still out there. People always ask us, the number one question I get asked the most is, when will it end? It's going to end when God implodes the earth, I guess, because as men and women and kids, we all collect. It doesn't matter what it is. So when you look at that, it'll never end. I know that we've been on TV for on almost 15 years. So that says something right there. We're not just popular in the United States. We have a worldwide audience that is really intrigued with American history and American things. So
that's right.
Yeah.
There's a question here from Chris again at the Overlook regarding finding sites to pick from. Has the show made that easier for you to find sites?
Yes and no. I mean, we have a staff that's in New York that helps, you know, because we can't funnel through 300, 400, 500 emails. The biggest thing is that, you have to funnel through those, because everybody thinks that they have the golden nugget. That's the big thing. So it's like having an understanding what each email. So every time we go to different states, we're probably getting through. Yeah, I mean, we're probably getting anywhere from 1,000 to 400 leads that we have to funnel those all through, and then figure out which ones are, you know. The biggest thing that I love to tell people is, Mike, Jersey, the show has been so real for so long that people always say that's staged, that's fake. This is not Storage Wars. This isn't stuff like that. We don't see these things. The producer might see it, and the people in New York might see it, and they say, hey, we're going to make a story about this. But we don't see that stuff until we actually get there.
Right.
We don't even meet these people till we get there.
Right.
So, you know, I like to put that fallacy aside for most people, because they think it's fake. It's not fake. What we're doing on the road is real. Stories are real. The people are real. The finds are real. All that is.
Yeah. And that's a credit to the success of the show. And that's one reason I love it, is because it genuinely feels real. You watch a lot of these other reality type shows, these home improvement shows, things like that, and it's almost a formula where, like, you can kind of guess what's going on because it's such a formula. But your show is different in that, you know, you have real stories. I love listening to the stories from the people when you're there. It's just it's you can feel that it's genuine.
Well, the plus is that History Channel does such a great job of bringing that story to life about what was going on in America there. You'll see photos of different things and history. And that's one thing that I love, is the fact that we are teaching American history and things in America to other people, which is great. I think that's what the worldwide market is so intrigued with. So,
right. Have you ever left the country? Here's a question from Manisto Key about have you picked up in Canada?
I've been in Canada. I just drove through Canada. I would love to go up there and pick more. There's a lot of stuff in Canada. I've been internationally. I've been to Italy. I've been to Ireland, and I've been to England. I would love to go back over there. Typically, when I'm over there, I'm with my family, so I get yanked every direction. Last time I said I was going to Ireland, I got hit with about 60 emails. Come look at this. Come look at that. And I just couldn't do it because I was with family at the time.
And it's got to be difficult because geographically, items are different. Historically, items are different. You're especially obviously growing up in America, but it must be different to see items in another country. And I would imagine some things you just might not even know what you're looking at. It's
very interesting. Question from Linda. I have 5 kids. Maybe 2 of them might be interested in, I guess, old things. One of my daughters, who I never thought would be interested in it, is kind of stepping into that role and started getting into vintage. She's into the 60s and the 70s stuff, so that makes me happy. One of my sons is he's helped me build a few cars. We built a few trucks together. So I think that the greatest gift as a parent we can give our children is the ability to learn our trade that we have, and to be able to teach them the history of not necessarily my family, but of America, and then have them carry that on. That's a big thing. That's if I could die tomorrow and I could leave one kid on this earth and he says, I'm going to be a picker, and he's going to grow up and be a picker, then I did my job.
That's it.
That's my hope, is that we can get some more kids involved in this industry. You were talking about stuff as people and the industry, as people go on and they're moving as I call it aging out.
Mm-hmm.
Model Ts, they used to bring $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. That market has tanked because in the Model T era, we haven't taught our children that that's a piece that they need to be saving and driving and doing things with. That right. So that I see that going to the wayside. I don't have a Model T right now. This 1913 will help me teach kids a little bit more about what was going on in the transportation field. But
right.
I think that's the big thing, a big disjustice that we do to our children, is we don't teach them enough about that, or give them the ability to be able to do that stuff. My mom gave my brother and I the ability. She cleaned out her garage and said, here's your garage. It's for you boys to have. Nice. And then she cleaned out the Four Seasons room and said, oh, the garage is full. You can have the Four Seasons room too. So, not too many parents would do that, but that's kind of what fueled us into what we're doing.
Yeah. Let me ask you about you're talking about your family, and I can't help but think, I mean, you're running a business on top of hosting this great show. The schedule's got to get pretty tough for you.
Yeah, we're busy. I've got one daughter that plays soccer, Division I. I've got another one that plays volleyball. I've got another one that's in college. I'm running 24/7. So when you got 5 kids, it's a ping pong ball. You got to be every place under the sun. And then you're also, if I'm not there, then I'm down at my shop. If I'm not on the shop, I'm on the road. So I spend about 60,000 miles extra a year on the road doing all these things, going to shows. I do Pate, Texas, which is a great show. And I do the Hershey show, which will be coming up in October. The National Motorcycle Meet is held in Davenport. That's the largest antique motorcycle meet in the world, which will be coming up here at the end of this month. So it's, I don't know. After having 5 kids, I think you pretty much learn to just ping pong ball off everything, and it just seems to work anymore. And I got
Do you ever take some Rob time though? And just, I mean, what do you do for yourself to make sure that you keep your stress in check and that you're,
yeah. I mean, my Rob time comes when I'm down at my shop. If I'm not on the road, I'm down at the shop. I can lock the door, put my music on, just melt into everything that's there. But typically, like even when I'm doing family vacations, I drive. My kids, my wife will fly wherever the destination is. I drive there. That's my Rob time. I'm all by myself in my vehicle. I just finished doing a 4,800 mile trip in an 84 3/4 ton Suburban.
Wow.
So I drove to Maine, was out there for 2.5 weeks, came back down through, I came back with a full load of antiques in the back of it. So it doesn't seem like I'm ever very far from trying to buy an antique.
That's right.
I'm always looking.
Right. Yeah. I saw probably about 8 years ago, I saw your brother's van on the New Jersey Turnpike, the antique archaeology van. And of course, I was starstruck, like, oh, there's the van. There it is. And I was heading south from North Jersey, and I got off at exit 2, and he kept going. So I thought, well, maybe he's going to Delaware. I mean, there's not much left when you're going south on the Turnpike. You're either getting off at the last Turnpike, or you're heading over to Delaware, or further south. He could have been going to Maryland or somewhere else. But anyway,
Well,
that was fun.
my brother preaches to get on the back roads of America, get on the 2 lanes. That's where you're going to see things. And that's pretty much what I did in that Suburban. That's why it literally took me 3 weeks. I did 5 days. Most trips I'm bonsai in some direction, but I took 5 days driving out there, and I got to see a bunch of America. I got to stop at diners and hang out and do all that stuff. That's the Rob time. That's the stuff I love.
So when you're doing that, are you focused on that, or do you film content even yourself for your Instagram account? Or
oh yeah.
If
it's something cool, I'm going to film some good content on it. If it's something that I think people really need to know about, think about, then I'll try and film the content. I'm trying to do on the Instagram thing. I'm trying to film content that is teaching, no different than the show would be teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
So I get that. I get a lot of that from people, and I get feedback on it. We just filmed a big thing with this 1913 because literally, believe it or not, I'm literally at a loss with this 1913. It is the coolest thing ever, but I'm scratching my head. I have no clue what I just bought.
Is that right?
I do. And when we did that, I was like, I asked for people's help. I'm like, hey, and I reached out to a really good friend of mine tonight, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, this is right up your alley. You got to help me on this. I want to get this thing going by Hershey so I can drive it around at Hershey. And he started laughing. He's like, well, you finally got to my level. And I was like, that's what I wanted to hear.
Nice. So it's not running right now.
No, it's not. But hopefully, crossing my fingers, by October, it'll be running.
Well, if it's not seized up and you have fuel and fire, you're good to go, right?
There you go. That's all you need.
I had a 1940 Farmall tractor. It had no electric start. It had the crank and the magneto, and but that thing would start first crank. It was great. Yeah. Here's a question from Jeff. Speaking of collections, if we'll pick your brain here for a second. Speaking of picking, do you recall the craziest collection you've seen, whether it be on the show or even off the show? Anything you've come across, you're like, this is bizarre.
We filmed a couple. I filmed some of the biggest collections in the last 2 years, and I would have to say Brian Mayer, which was in Ohio. He was the biggest train collector in the country. Anything train, this guy had, and he owned a scrap business, and basically he was taking down buildings and doing all that since he was a kid, and he had amassed a collection that no one had ever seen anything like it. And then he got into the gas and oil side of it, which I think he only amassed the gas and oil side. When he went into something, he went all in. I mean, he was all in. He only amassed that in 7 years. It took, I think, a little over 10 or 12 auctions to auction everything off. So if you can imagine the magnitude.
Wow.
Of the thing. Yeah. And he had full cities of real trains, real everything. Jill just sent me a video of them hauling off one of the last pieces out of their backyard, which is incredible in itself. It was an original train yard that he had built back there.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah. And crazy stuff like that. That when you get into collecting that of that magnitude, it's just you're like, wow. One person at that age collect all of what you're looking at. So, and
if you're organized, it's not hoarding, right? There's a difference between hoarding and collecting, right?
Right. That's what I say. I'm somewhat organized. I don't think I'm a collector, but I'm an organized collector.
Yeah.
To a point. I do have a building that I literally just built out back just to put stuff in because I got sick of looking stuff in the shop. So now I'm talking about building another building out back to put more stuff in. Yeah.
Well, you need the room for that. Yeah. So, question from Phil here, Peterson Farm of Little Nashville. So your speaking engagements, I would assume, since you're talking a lot about education tonight, I would assume that tends to be your topic. But tell me a little bit about your public speaking engagements.
I've done a lot over the last probably 6 years. More public speaking in schools than normal. And that's trying to get the younger ages involved into what we're doing. I proposed to our local high school just recently that I would give a $2,500 call it. It's going to happen 3 times a year. We're going to give away
Like a
25 in a scholarship form for kids to go on to things such as trade schools, because I'm a big trade school guy, and I don't think we give enough of that stuff away in those directions and help these kids in the directions we need to. Because the trade school, if you look at trade schools, they're looking at a kid doesn't know what he wants to do when he's in high school. Well,
right.
They have no ability to do it anymore because we don't have any trades in the high schools anymore. They've taken shop classes out. So how are you going to learn what you want to do? So trying to get those kids doing it early on. I'm involved with some museums that are around the country that are doing a lot of that. They'll take in the Auburn Truck Museum, for instance. They'll take in kids that are a freshman in high school, and you have to sign a commitment thing that you'll stay for 4 years. Well, that 4 years, they're going to teach you how to do an antique car, how to build it, how to reform it, how to build engines, do everything. When you graduate high school as a senior, they're going to give you a scholarship to move on to the next level. So, yeah, I mean, people don't really, a lot of people don't know there's actually a 4-year college that's in Kansas that is all about restoring antique cars. It's a college.
Wow.
It's unheard of. I didn't hear about that stuff when I was, because I would have definitely gone that direction versus the 3 years I wasted going to college and not getting anything out of it. So,
well, I'll tell you that vocational school changed my life, because I was the kid in high school, hated every minute of it.
Yeah.
And, the opportunity came up to take machine trades in vocational school. And, I always liked tinkering and making things. So here I was able to fabricate things in machine trades.
Yeah.
And the best school year of my life was my senior year, because I would only go to school for like 3 hours. And then I would go off to trade school. And then my senior year, I actually got a job. So I'd only go to school for half a day, and then I'd go to work and get paid.
Yeah.
And I mean, it really, it really helped my life, because like I said, I was one of those kids that I wasn't dumb, but I hated school. And,
So John Deere in our area, I live where John Deere was made. It's still manufactured here. They have just started a program with high school kids, getting these kids to come into the factory and see if this is what they want to do, showing them what they can make money on, showing them how to do it, and showing them that there is a longevity to this life that they do, whether it be in engineering or just manufacturing in general. So I wished I would have spent more time on the manufacturing side and learned how to build things with machinery more or less. But God, I think the reason that I'm so involved with cars is because we had our shop teacher was Ardeen Evans, and he had every single cool hot rod that you can imagine, from Corvettes to Camaros to Mustangs. He would bring those into the shop and let us tear those things apart, which is unheard of,
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the reasons. And I had a next door neighbor, Big Al, that he worked on Mustangs, and he always taught me things. If I had a problem, he would help me fix it, but he taught me how to fix those things. And then Bob Peterson, he was a big part of the show and has been for a long, long time. He just recently passed away. But Bob's philosophy on, just like what you said, Ed, if it's got gas, it's got spark, it's got air, we're going to get this thing to run. And it will run. That's what he'd tell you. I literally took that philosophy into every single thing. So when I look at that 1913, I'm scratching my head and I'm listening to Bob saying, okay, get the spark, get the air, get the gas. And I'm looking at it going, where's it coming from? How do you even get the gas to this thing?
Right.
Where's the spark coming? So I'm scratching my head on this one, but I'll get through it.
You will.
Yeah.
But that's great to hear about John Deere. And because I feel for kids these days, because even the vocational school that I went to, it shifted in the 1990s to be more of an academy in biology and science and IT, which is great because that's a growing field. But they did away with the machine trades, with the auto body shop. And, there are still young people out there who would be interested in that. That hasn't changed. There are people that are just, when you think about right brain, left brain, some people are just more into mechanical hands-on. Some people are more into education, and neither one of them's wrong. But I wish we could bring this back for that group of young people who need some of that direction and that opportunity.
One of my youngest daughters, she was a straight A student, 4.0 all the way through. But her funnest like she would come home and be excited about telling me about it. Actually, I sit in her chair up in my room, in my living room all the time. She built a chair in wood shop, and she built this chair, and I sit in it all the time. And I think about that. She had the ability to build that. She was more excited about that than any class she ever took.
Anything. That's right.
And she was still a 4.0 student. She still goes on to college. But you know what? She loves to work with her hands now. She learned that. So that's a plus.
That's a plus, and it's also a rarity. She's a very special person, because to be able to combine those two abilities,
Yes.
kind of book smarts and hands-on. I've had a few friends who are engineers who also build things with their hands, and that's a pretty special person that has a gift of both of those things.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I hope she does well with that. Rob, there's something I do every week. I do a sticker giveaway, and I'm going to do that right now if you'll hang out with me for just another couple of minutes.
Oh, yeah.
But for the folks watching, the way we do this is we enter a word in the live chat, and then I draw it. I'm going to give away my color sticker, and of course the 25,000 subscriber limited edition sticker as well. So if you're watching for the first time, I want to encourage you to participate in this. And what we're going to do is put a word up on the screen, and then in the live chat, folks will type the word exactly as you see it. Uppercase or lowercase. But you type the word in the live chat. Hashtag winner. We'll make it easy for you.
There you go.
So just hashtag winner, and we'll do the sticker giveaway for tonight. We'll wait until we get a number of entries here.
Peterson Farms had a question, and I love the fact that they're doing a summer internship on the farm. Absolutely incredible. That's
nice.
Yeah, I mean, I learned all that stuff when I was doing. I mean, I learned. I detasseled corn. I did all this. So to do that thing, that's awesome. Keep it going. I mean, we need that.
Tell me about that corn detasseling. I heard about that. That seems like a Midwest thing. I never heard about that here on the East Coast.
Well, it's a hot summer day, 100 degrees, and you're in a little crevice, like little crate that you sit in, and you literally have to pull the tassels off the top of these corn.
In the field, the live corn, right?
Yeah, live corn. Yeah, literally. There's probably, I think there's 6 on one side and 6 on another, and then a tractor in the middle. And I thought that was the greatest job I ever had, but man, it was hot. It was nasty.
And what's the purpose of detasseling the corn? What does it do?
You're asking the wrong person.
You just did the job.
Yeah, it was just a job to me. Something to do. Peterson Farms could answer that question right there. Why do you pull the tassels off them? I don't know. It's something to do with how the breeding of the corn or helping it grow.
Yeah, my wife lived in Nebraska for a time before I met her, and she talked about corn detasseling. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't even know what that means. So,
yeah.
But
Bob, anyway. I also baled hay for a long time. I did that in the summer months. It was fun.
I've done that, and as a kid, I never liked it. The worst thing ever, because it was just manually grabbing the bales, and they're heavy, and it's hot, and sticky, and itchy. And I think everybody should bale hay though for one summer.
I definitely do. I think the detasseling thing too. Hussy Helpers puts on there, keeps the male part from breeding.
Okay.
That's probably what it is. So.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't fully know what that means either, though. So.
No. Detasseling is removing the pollen from the tassel, taps of corn, placing them on the ground to perform a pollination. So there you go.
Okay.
It is.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to hit this draw button now and see who our winner is tonight. Let's see who wins the stickers tonight. If it's a regular viewer. Oh, Manisto Key. Congratulations, Mark. Mark's a regular viewer here. Awesome. And congratulations, Mark. Well, you got it. Mark, you have my email, so you just have to email me and send me your address, and I'll get these out to you. My email is contactmcg@gmail.com. Yeah. mcgtv@gmail.com. It's a long one. But anyway, Mark, send me that email. Congratulations to you. So, well, listen, Rob, this was a great chat tonight. I really, again, appreciate you spending some time with us. Look forward to the new episodes that are coming out on the History Channel. I believe it's tonight, right? Monday night?
Always on Wednesday. No, Wednesday night.
Wednesday?
Monday night. No, it's Wednesday night.
Okay, sorry I messed you up on that. Anyway, it's this week though.
Yeah, it is this week. I'll tell you that. Honestly, History Channel has moved us around so much. It's like trying to remember what day we're on. We were on Mondays, then we went to Wednesdays, then we went to Saturdays. I think it's Wednesday night at 8 o'clock.
Just check your TV guide. Remember thumbing through the TV guide to see what was coming on?
And if you can't hey, a lot of people, I hear this all the time because TV is changing so much and so quick. You can get on historychannel.com and actually stream it off the computer. You can do that, ours. Or we are on Netflix. Those are older episodes.
Right.
And hopefully there's some new stuff that's going to be produced in the next year on some other, maybe Hulu and some other platforms.
Great. Well, listen, Rob, again, thanks so much. Please take care of yourself. I want to thank you for joining us, and hopefully you'll come see us again. And just
thank you guys.
Wish you well, and good luck with those 5 kids and all your work. Give our best to your brother as well, and Jersey John.
I will. Thank you.
Tell Jersey John you were chatting with the South Jersey group here.
Yeah, I will. Thank you guys for streaming in with us. I appreciate you.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next time.